So the sound effect whenever they go through a portal, Steppenwolf goes through a portal.
The
it's
boom
like,
tube?
Yes, we will find the others.
It's the same sound effect from Crash Bandicoot Warped, the third Crash Bandicoot game. And I can't just not hear it. And it's just
that's where they got it from.
Maybe it is. Yeah, so anyway, that's my fun fact.
So begins the end. This world is divided.
I'm building an alliance to defend ourselves.
I have a second chance.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
They will join you when the sun comes.
You heard it up top, folks. Welcome back to Normies Like Us. Whether you're Atlantean, Amazonian, or even a person, we hope you've come together to join us in celebrating a one-of-a-kind, monumental day. That is the release of the Snyder Cut. We're talking about here on Normies Like Us. Zack Snyder's Justice League with your hosts, Colin L.
This is Aquamike. Oh, hell yeah.
He's back.
Josen Man Moa.
All right.
This is Steppen Jacob.
You're looking buffer now compared to the last time I saw you, Steppen Jacob.
Yes, I've got a suit that's made of tiny little knives that move. It's great.
Nice.
Ooh, so scary.
And before we get in, I actually have to do something real quick here. Here we go. My saturation should be pulled out now, right? We're a little less saturated
That's
for
the Snyder Cut
hardcore
of your camera feed.
That's right. And so, I mean, the Snyder Cut's a big deal. And whether, you've listened to how many pods with how many hosts, you haven't listened to us, not us united. So we're happy that you're here.
They said the age of podcasting would never return.
Oh man.
I am so excited for today.
They say you can talk to listeners. Is that true?
No, the new cut doesn't have that.
Oh, you're right.
You can't talk to listeners.
Leave that behind. We're talking Zack Snyder. Welcome to Normies Like Us. We do the deep dive. We do the pop culture breakdown. We talk about the niche of the normie. There's nothing more normie than Zack Snyder's Justice League, a movie that has been a cut for the people, right? Something made for people like us, the fans. It's a celebration day. I know we're all in a mood to celebrate, but let's get that history up top. It's kind of a Zack Snyder Legends episode, right? We do those Legends episodes occasionally. I want to know your guys' history with Zack Snyder movies, but let alone with his DC universe too. Jacob, have you watched all the blah, blah, blahs? Have you seen the original Justice League cut?
Yes, I have seen the original Justice League, and I've seen most of the DC movies. I watched, leading up to this, I watched Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I'd seen the other edition in theaters. And then I even watched Aquaman this weekend, which I hadn't seen yet. And I was going to watch Shazam, but it wasn't on HBO Max. So now Shazam is the only DC EU movie that I have not seen. But I've been a Zack Snyder skeptic before. I've been a Snyder Cut skeptic. But you know what? I may have become a believer. I may have done a whole 180 on my Zack Snyder opinion. So
this is a movie about faith, my friend. I'm very happy to hear that.
Oh, wow.
Joe,
That's right.
A Batman stan, what is your experience with this universe?
Well, the director, I love his Dawn of the Dead remake. I've seen 300, all of those kind of movies I was a fan of, but they all kind of have that jock rock aesthetic. And bringing that to the DCEU, I was not a fan of Man of Steel at all. Did not like what they were doing with that universe. I remember the first time we got the announcement that the sequel to Man of Steel was going to be Batman vs. Superman, and we had all of the pictures and surprise Wonder Woman here's too. Remember feeling insane when I saw that movie for the first time. Like Jacob, I've watched the Ultimate Edition in quarantine as well. I've seen all the other DCEU movies, and I started the Ultimate Edition of BVS right before I watched the Snyder Cut, and was like, I'll give it a little refresher. I'll remind myself of what this is like. I got 15 minutes in and was like, yeah, I know what it's like, and then just turned on the Snyder Cut and went for it.
Not what I expected.
So I've seen the original cut before, but I have now seen the Snyder cut more times than I've seen the theatrical cut.
What?
Yeah.
Dang.
You've seen it twice, or what is that?
I watched the Snyder cut twice for this episode.
Wow, where do you find the time?
That's like 8 hours of.
It was a full work day.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I also want to say that with Zack Snyder movies, like I'm a fan of 300, but I was not really a fan of Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, the original cut, or like the Ultimate Edition is like a little better, but I'm still not a huge fan of it. So I just wanted to say that too.
Right. Well, for me, on the DC side, I've kind of famously on this podcast only seen non-Zack Snyder DC movies. I didn't see Batman versus Superman, no Man of Steel, but I had seen Shazam, Aquaman, the Wonder Woman movies. So I pretty much avoided the Zack Snyder stuff, except for the Justice League. I haven't even seen the Whedon cut. But I was a fan of Zack Snyder's, like Joe said, his Dawn of the Dead remake I enjoyed, and I liked 300. But
Watchmen
was decent, yeah, but I think Sucker Punch is terrible.
Yes.
And that's when I gave up on Zack Snyder. But like Jacob kind of said, after watching this, I'm like, it was all right. So we'll get into it. I don't know if I'm turning a corner on him. I won't admit it yet. You'll have to listen to the episode.
It's interesting here, boys.
I want to say just, I've been a skeptic for a long time. So I just want to say it was better than I thought it was going to be. But I don't want to overhype it. But I did like it. And I liked it better than the original cut.
Church of Zack.
Right. Well, Colin, how about you, though? You set this up. I mean, how do you feel about the whole Zack
I saw Man of Steel with Joe. Zack attack. I saw Man of Steel with Joe. We saw it with your brother. Shout out to Phil, who was like a big Superman fan. I'm not necessarily the biggest, although I've kind of come around to him. And I just remember his reaction to all that being like, I liked how it looked, but that guy didn't really act like Superman. And that kind of set up the groundwork for the whole world, right? Of like just the discourse of Zack doesn't understand Superman. He doesn't understand these characters. I'm somebody, I don't love 300. I don't love Watchmen. Sin City to me feels like a movie he directed too. Like sometimes I'll forget that, but I don't know. It's just, I made the comment in our Watch. There's styles over the substance. That's kind of what he is. I compared him to Tim Burton. I grew up with Tim Burton's Batman. To me, that's something for sad boys, and this is something for gym rats. And I'm glad they're getting their own thing, but it's not my thing.
I think it really feels like the equivalent of like the nondescript rock that is blasting in like a high school locker room while they're like working out in the football. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the save a horse ride a cowboy of movies.
It's White Zombie. Yeah, it's Rob Zombie.
Well, the thing is, I think there's two ways to rate this movie. So like, is it a good movie, or versus is it a better movie than the theatrical cut of Justice League? Which I think most people would, at this point, would agree that yes, it is, right? But is it a good movie, or is it just like a better movie than the first cut?
Yeah, those are the questions I think, we're going to be diving into. I think that's a good way to put it, because you have to kind of take it on its own terms, but it's also being compared to the previous theatrical version. And I think that's where it's at.
Right, so for someone like you who hasn't seen the original cut, your perspective is going to be totally different than the other three of us.
Exactly.
Who have something to compare it against.
It's almost like we're each coming at this with our own unique perspective, but coming together for a common goal as some type of league of podcasts.
We'll get there.
We're forming a unity.
Yeah, this is going to be the long
There's going to be a lot of build up first. We got to go into all of our origin stories, and then eventually we'll meet up. Yeah.
Well, let's start those origin stories right now. Maybe right after this, we'll talk kind of the origins of the Snyder Cut and where it came from, and then we can just dive right in. Coming up next on Normies Like Us.
If you followed the first two movies, this movie really kind of takes you into a completely immersive scope and scale.
We're back talking Zack Snyder's Justice League on Normies Like Us. A little bit of history. We mentioned his films up top. Zack Snyder, very versatile director, great at adapting things. He had just come off of Watchmen. Warner Brothers and Legendary, the studios that were putting those together, need somebody to do a Superman film. Okay. The people who are the descendants of the writers of Superman do these lawsuits every once in a while. Believe it or not, most decisions in Hollywood's basically come down to licensing agreements and like contract disputes, and every 2 years they have to make stuff, right? So they have to make a Superman movie. Christopher Nolan, who had just come off the extremely popular Batman franchise, recommends Zack, saying he knows how to make a movie of this scale. Zack is inspired by Christopher Nolan's take on a grounded Batman, and he says, I want to do a grounded Superman. If you guys recall, Man of Steel is a very weird movie. It's shot non-linearly. The story takes place with jumps, cuts, back and forth throughout time. The reception to it is very bad, let alone with the stuff of story disputes of should Superman kill, things like that. Not a big deal. Warner Brothers doubles down. They see the success of the Marvel Universe, and they say, well, come on. We need to get something like that going. It's worth billions of dollars, the Avengers. We can get that going ourselves. Zack Snyder, inspired by all this, probably with a mixture of pressure as well, says, then let me helm all of it. Let me inject the rest of the DC universe into my Superman universe and expand things out. He comes up with BVS, Batman vs. Superman, him and Academy Award writer Chris Terrio from Argo. And it's Dawn of Justice. I mean, that's what it is. The attempt of it is to jumpstart and put together an entire DC universe. It introduces Wonder Woman, introduces Batman. It has a million cut scenes with a bunch of other characters that will come up in a minute.
They kind of plant seeds, right, in that one.
Plants the seeds.
I've seen those little scenes, but continue.
From there, the reception is terrible. People do not like Batman vs. Superman. It's amazing that you can say that to a film that grossed $800 million, but it's not a success. That comes about because the last time Batman was in a movie in the Christopher Nolan films, it made over $1 billion. They came to an expectation of that, right? So instead, again, they get a little weary, but they decide to move forward. Let's take what you've set up and do a Justice League film. 2017, in May, the pressure of all of it, mixed with a loss in the family for Zack Snyder, results in him personally stepping away. He has taken full credit and ownership of that. He was not fired. He did step away from the situation.
During post-production, right?
During post-production.
Pretty much finished shooting at that point, I think.
2 weeks of reshoots were in the contracts of all the stars. They had not gone forward with that yet, but they were deep into post-production to figure out what they wanted to do with the movie. There were studio mandates. It should be 2 hours. It should be lighter. It should be fun. Zack Snyder had put up the entire charade of inviting bloggers to the set to show them what a lighter, more fun and interesting movie it was.
It's casual.
None of that's working.
Aquaman wears jeans.
That quote was thrown out 1 million times, Joe. Bloggers came back and said it's casual. Aquaman wears jeans. Very strange. They were shown the Gordon rooftop scene, right? Doesn't work out. Joss Whedon, meanwhile, is on the lot doing pitches. After the success he's had in the Marvel Universe, they take him into the fold to do a Batgirl movie. He is around when it seems like Zack Snyder's falling apart and away from this project, and they, whether or not he jumps on or a studio motivates him to or what, jumps in and takes over, helming the end of this product, which does include using the reshoots that were promised that the actors had to come back for and delivering a 2-hour cut as they had mandated as well. Now, again, that comes out in 2017. Massive failure. Warner Brother president Kevin Sugihara has been let go of the company now, but it's sort of believed that he pushed this movie forward for bonuses for the board of Warner Brothers. And, you know, that's the end of the story. We never got to see Zack Snyder's Justice League, right, guys?
And that movie doing so badly kind of killed the DCEU, other than going forward, they just kept what worked, like Wonder Woman, and made solo movies, but so far they haven't done like a lot of connected universe stuff since then, or don't have plans to.
Yeah, the Joker is nowhere near any of this stuff, you know, the Joaquin Phoenix version.
True.
It's just Taxi Driver, which is fine.
And of course, they're going ahead with the new Batman, Robert Pattinson.
Totally. Things are looking grim, and yet still in the wake of that, a Twitter account is started hashtag release the Snyder Cut. They then put that hashtag out and say, no matter what, we should rally behind this cause that Zack has a different cut of his movie. We believe it was taken away from him. Let's get that cut released. And it took 4 years. But
and a pandemic.
Last May 2020, almost 3 years after they had moved on from Zack, they said they were giving him $75 million plus to finish his cut of the film under whatever guidelines he wants. And he released a 4-hour epic and a 4:3:1 aspect ratio that he calls Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we watched it today, folks.
Right?
That's right.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I watched it over a couple days
I didn't watch
for me.
Today, yeah.
It was
I did not watch it today, and I will probably not watch it again, Joe. But here we are, you know, and we're talking not even first thoughts, but just the reaction to that whole world. You know, it's not the Marvel thing. That's what people bring up so much. It's not connected. It's not these things. Zack clearly had a plan. You know, just reactions to that. How do you guys feel seeing the continuation of other things you've seen? Mike, you know, again, not somebody who is so versed in this movie. How does it stand?
Well, you know, being unfamiliar kind of with the previous movies, aside from the memes or, you know, a couple scenes you see here and there, like I knew Superman had died in Batman vs. Superman. I knew about Martha and all that stuff. So having the movie kind of open with Superman's death and kind of catch you up, that makes sense. But then the amount of time that they can spend on the characters' backstories and setting up motivations, I think with a 4-hour cut does work for me as someone who wasn't all that familiar and generally is not that familiar with DC. So as a 4-hour cut, I mean, it's telling a competent story, and having not seen the Whedon one, I hear it's a little convoluted and motivations get lost. So I think at least it's telling a coherent story to where it's succeeding at what it's trying to do. Do I like his style all the time? I don't know, but I think this movie definitely succeeds at what it's trying to accomplish, right?
You said all that way too fast. Try that again in slow motion for me, buddy.
You're right. You're right.
No, I agree with you, Mike. But having watched Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, the day before I watched this movie, I'm still not a fan of that movie. The Ultimate Edition is better than the theatrical cut because it's more coherent. Like, I think a lot of problems with these movies is the studio actually just cutting things out for time mainly, and then it's like, you know, it makes the movie hard to follow. And so it's like, you know, I would rather have it be as long as it needs to be to actually be a good story. But I did feel like Batman v Superman led into this movie pretty well, actually, better than even the theatrical cut, where it's like there's certain things that I could tell he was setting up that ended up happening in this movie. So I liked it, even though that movie I'm not a fan of as much, because it makes Batman look like a chump basically for most of the movie. He gets tricked by Lex Luthor. But there you go.
He feels
they feel
bad
like they're
about
authored, though.
What's that?
They feel like they're authored. It's not
like
just
it feels like
you
it's,
know, these journeyman directors like Marvel. It's like that's a Zack Snyder movie,
right? And you could say Zack Snyder is an auteur. You know, you may not agree with his style or his themes, but he definitely has like a singular vision. So that's one thing
like
to say about him.
Jesus in slow-mo, and like that
Right.
that counts. My thing is, like, I don't think the Snyder Cut should be called a movie. It's not a movie. Like, it's not. And all of the motivations that are there, like, aren't really necessary either. Like, you don't need half of the scenes in this movie. This movie could be 45 minutes long. Like, it is.
I wouldn't say that.
Superman dead, Batman sad, get heroes together, big bad monster come, fight big bad monster, big bad monster
story,
die.
Joe.
That's it. Like,
I think you know 4 hours is definitely too long, but I feel like a perfect synthesis would be a 3-hour cut, and I think there could be a really good 3-hour cut of a movie.
No, I like that it's 4 hours long, and I enjoyed myself. I just wouldn't call it a movie. I think this is the beginning of something else, where it's like, if I paid for this and sat in a movie theater, I would have hated it. But the idea that this is like a restructuring of something that you knew. I mean, it'd be like if right now a George Clooney Batman movie came out and Chris O'Donnell came back, and it was like, you know, 6 hours long of like Robin in college and like trying to get a loan application is like half the movie for some reason. Like there's a great like Wonder Woman short film in the middle of the Snyder Cut that doesn't need to be there, but I'm glad it was, because sitting on my couch watching this 4-hour-long project, I was like, oh, cool, a little Wonder Woman movie in the middle of this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's something else. I feel like this is the birth of, like, it's not a miniseries, but it's not a movie. Like, I really feel like
It's a mega series.
But I don't think it's going to start a trend or anything. I feel like it's more of a one-off. This is just a special occasion. I don't think that studios are going to start doing things like this a lot or anything like that.
Well, here's what I'm thinking, because first of all, this hashtag release the Snyder Cut fans, they're playing Spider-Man 2's Vindicated right now as loud as they can. But this thing, exactly like Joe said, it's not a movie. You would not have gotten a 4-hour and 12-minute cut into a movie theater. I don't care if Zack Snyder stayed on the whole time, right? Tons of this would get chopped out. But quickly, the point I want to make is TV and film, the line has been getting blurred, especially with streaming. Without a pandemic, do we get this? This is like a weird, is it a miniseries? Is it a movie? It has chapters. It could mark the trend of this style of like 4, 5, 6-hour epics presented with chapters where we're blurring the line.
It's a mega series.
A mega series. I love it.
It's a mega series.
If the Book of Boba Fett was released all at once and it was 5 hours long or 3.5, 40, 3:45 or something like that, like, I don't know, I'm here for that type of content. Like, I really enjoyed the Snyder Cut because there wasn't a pressure to like sit in a movie theater and watch something that was like, oh, some of this is god awful. Like, I was at home and I could be like, oh my god, the needle just dropped on another fucking like Nick Cave song. Let's fucking do this. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
It's binging without the loading screens. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My argument is that
music videos in there, like, that wouldn't happen in a movie theater.
So Jacob, let's get your take, and then I want to hear Colin's perspective.
I guess my argument is just that it didn't need to be 4 hours. It's overindulgent. It's too long, sure, but I feel like the theatrical cut being exactly 2 hours basically, and they had a mandate not to go over 2 hours. That's too short for this kind of movie. So the perfect middle ground would have been maybe like a 2.5 to 3 hour movie that could have worked in theaters. But I also don't think this is the version that he planned to tell from the beginning. Like he says, like, oh, this is the Snyder Cut. No, they shot a bunch of new stuff, obviously. So it's he added on a bunch of stuff. So we're never going to see what he originally visioned.
Now, the number 214 is very important to the Snyder cult. 2 hours or 214 minutes was the original cut length of the first set of Justice League he had put together. That is the Snyder cut of the original release, the Snyder Cut.
Right.
This, and my whole take on it, because I unfortunately cannot separate myself from the man, is bad because it's two things to him. He says it is a gift to his daughter Autumn, that it is this big send-off to her and that he loves her so much, and that this is a culmination or a statement of that love for him. That's amazing. I love that. But, in some quotes I have here, he also talks about how it's a fuck you statement against the people who took this away from him. It's kind of a revenge movie. He made it out of sort of a mixture of grief and just, I think, anger. And it can't be both those things. It just the same way that it can't be a miniseries or a movie. It's an Atlantean. It's neither a boy of the sea or of the land. It's an amalgamation of both, and it dies because of that.
There's stories that he didn't even watch the Whedon cut. That like his wife and a friend went and told him like, you should never watch that. And I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of what I've heard. Is
that friend was Christopher
I don't believe
Nolan.
that because I feel like he probably didn't watch it at the time, but I feel like he did go and rewatch it. Or he watched it probably for the first time. Yeah, just to see. Because I feel like this movie almost takes out a lot of the dumbest things that were in the theatrical cut that were probably Whedon editions. All of them are gone. So I feel like he went through and marked every change that he wanted to make. But he probably didn't watch it when it was in theaters. I also think the interesting thing is, the two people at the center of the whole thing, Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, back in 2017, the kind of consensus was, Joss Whedon is going to come in and fix this movie or whatever. Now there's been a whole role reversal where Joss Whedon is like completely the villain, right? Also, having to do with other things that he's in the news for. So just a complete villain.
Right.
And now Zack Snyder has been
Yeah.
redeemed as the good guy, I guess.
Yeah, and the fact that some of the scenes that were cut is when the Flash falls on top of Wonder Woman and Aquaman is just
Right.
talking about how hot she is. Who could have put in jokes like that?
Zoopers, yeah.
Yeah.
Jacob sent me some stuff off that was like, you know, just the reshoots Joss Whedon chose to do would be sometimes the same scene, different line readings, or just
Right.
different attempts or swings at bats of the lines, where you just go, Joss, your whole point should have been to get to that mandate of the shorter time. Mind the gold in here. Because I think there is gold in this movie, but I think it is a fucking rocky ore that where that gold is hard to get out of it, dude.
Right. But like some of the scenes where they just change, it's still the same scene, but they change minor lines or minor things about him. And it almost seems like Zack Snyder purposely went through and changed anything that Joss Whedon had like connection to.
There is nothing in the cut that Zack did not shoot himself. And I think that's another like real proud moment that he would throw in there. Like
Right.
none of that stuff was used.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even thinking about like the Wonder Woman bank heist scene, right? There's certain lines in there that were changed. Like in the theatrical version, yes, there's the Ancient Lamentations.
Don't get me
music.
started on
Anytime
Ancient
you say her
Lamentation.
name, I just feel powered to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That
But
movie's
in the
everywhere.
Yeah, in the theatrical cut, so when she's talking to the head terrorist guy, he says, "I don't believe it. What are you?" And she says, "A believer." Whereas in the new cut, it's just, "I don't believe it," and she says, "Believe it." Like that's fine, whatever, that makes sense. The first
Yeah,
one, it's like,
Naruto.
what does that mean? So
Why
that's, you know,
reshoot that?
yeah, it made it worse. So I think a lot of things are just restored from the original that I like.
Yeah, and my last thoughts on kind of the general whole setup before we get into maybe spoilers, because we are going to be talking spoilers for a movie that already came out in 2017, but now it's a different movie. Yeah, a 4-year-old movie that's also 4 days old. It's the kind of thing where it does feel long, like Jacob said, and I think we all kind of can agree it's long, and it's a little boring. Joe's giving me the big look like, yep,
It's
and
like
I agree.
A little long. It's fucking 4 hours, dog.
This is, to me, especially with the epilogue, Zack Snyder saying, here's everything. Just here's fucking everything. All my ideas.
It's all
I'm
on
not
the
doing it
table.
anymore. Just here's everything.
Right.
Deleted scenes,
He knows this
whatever.
is the last,
Mhm.
the last thing that
He's
you
been
know.
told.
It's the Return of the King ending where the movie ends 5 times. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
So here's a crazy epilogue scene that we'll never see a resolution to. Here's
Right.
you know
So
Lex Luthor and Deathstroke coming together. Having
My
a
favorite
setup to
D&D
the
player,
sequel,
yeah.
which doesn't matter at all anymore.
Yeah. Right.
yeah, it's a, you know, you can only wish, you know, what could have happened. So before
Grab
we
that
do
stone,
spoilers,
baby.
yeah, anything else about the general Snyder Cut before we just go wild on this thing?
I was surprised at the amount of jokes that are still in there. Like
It's
this
funny.
movie still has humor to it, and I think that was something where like everyone assumed that when Joss came in, he was like punching up the humor. And I think like now looking at it, like the humor is still there. Like the I'm
Right.
rich, like oh I'm Barry Allen and I like Rick and Morty and do improv every Saturday.
I need
like
friends.
yeah, like those are still there. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
like I don't know.
I
I
would-
don't know. I feel like Zach deserves some credit for like no, this dude doesn't just frown all the time. He was trying to have fun here, and I think he deserves that credit.
Right. No, I think there is humor here. I just think they took out some of the most egregious jokes from the theatrical version that were like the lamest that like I didn't think were funny, and they
What
left
is
some of the
brunch?
more funnier stuff.
I missed the brunch meme.
Brunch.
Right. Yeah, so I just, you know, Joss Whedon did come in and it almost tried to, you know, replicate Marvel and do like the, you know, quips all the time, which is, it works for Marvel, but not everyone has to do the same thing, right? And like you said, there is jokes in here. It's just not as a steady of a stream of them. So it's just a different style, I think.
I want to say one last difference from the Joss cut, Mike, that you will never have to tolerate if you don't watch this thing.
Mhm.
And that is Mustache Gate. Now, Henry Cavill
Right.
had a mustache because he was doing Mission Impossible Fallout all the time. He put that in what's called first position, which when you're in the entertainment industry means you put that job above all else. Tom Cruise hurt himself. They had time to do reshoots for Justice League. And he said, I cannot shave this mustache because
I think
I'm
they
in
even
first
said
position.
The
Mission
studio
Impossible.
of Mission Impossible like refused to let him even.
Yeah, absolutely
Paramount
not.
said you are not doing that. You are not
Yeah.
shaving. You wouldn't have time for our reshoots. You got to come back once Tom's ankle heals. Mike, Justice League 2017, despite that, has so much additional Superman footage, close-ups, an intro scene where people talk about podcasts, shout out to the medium we're doing right now, where you see a Frankenstein Superman, and I love not having that in this.
And it just looks like this. Like it's just like flesh over where the mustache would be. And he has like
a woolly willy,
upper lip, and he's like,
I've seen it. It's very awkward, right? Because that whole mustache gate went around. Yeah, it looks worse than the graphics for The Witcher, which is a show that Henry Cavill was also in. That's the best I can do.
That's right.
But yeah, no more mustache gate. I think, I think we got an interesting thing on our hands. So let's just go ahead and talk spoilers, guys. Right? I mean, Justice League. Right up after this, Normies Like Us. Back in a flash.
The fan community has sort of risen up demanding this version. Well, because of the promise I've made them over the course of the 2 other movies, it has created this movement that said, we need to know how it ends.
Back, we're wheeling and dealing, talking spoilers on Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to be talking about every part of it. I want to throw out to you guys, a movie is only as strong as its villain. We've got Steppenwolf, the new god, in this bad boy. And before we get reactions of whether or not he's better, whether or not he's worse, Mike, a totally clean take. What do you think of Steppenwolf?
I liked him, actually. Like, having not, any experience besides the AMD, GTX on meme, when his armor's way crazier now.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I think he's a cool villain. I mean, we see that he kind of fell out of grace. He has a motivation where he's trying to get on the good side. And even when he does something good, homie, I think Desaad is like, you still owe him 50,000 worlds. And he has this look on his face like, fuck, man, like, I'm trying. And you kind of feel bad for him. Like,
he's got like big, like Pixar fish eyes.
Yeah.
He's a sad boy.
He's kind of sympathetic, and he feels powerful. Like when he shrugs the arrows off. I like Steppenwolf. I think he's pretty compelling. Bad for this.
Jacob, you said the living armor earlier. Is that your fucking favorite part?
I thought it was cool, and I just want to say that, like, so having seen the
PS5 looks real good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, okay, I just want to give some context about myself, because I think I said this on here before, but growing up, I was always more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, right? I'm not a comics guy, but I've been a fan of various DC animated shows for a long time, like, obviously Batman animated series, and then Justice League Unlimited, and then even going into, like, Young Justice, and, not to mention all the DC animated movies and that sort of thing. So I'm really more in tune with the DC lore, and so having Darkseid in this, right? Apocalypse, Desaad, all that stuff, like, to see that in a movie was actually really cool, because what you got to understand about the theatrical version is it was just Steppenwolf, and he also didn't have the character that he has in this, where he has this motivations. He was kind of just a generic. He was basically Darkseid, but he had no motivations for why he was doing anything. So for me, having the whole expanded mythos of Apocalypse, having Steppenwolf be just basically lieutenant to Darkseid, not the biggest bad, I thought it worked really well, and I was totally psyched to, like, see all that stuff. What about you guys?
Yeah, Joe, what do you think?
I think it's really interesting that the villain succeeds at being a good villain. I do think that was one of the biggest improvements, was Steppenwolf actually having motivation. Totally. But like you said, he's not the big bad. The big bad just stands on the other side of a portal the whole movie, and, like, only has one action scene in a flashback. And I it's really interesting that they made that work well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, he's basically Thanos in the Marvel movies before Infinity War. He's just kind of, they're teasing him. So if there was Justice League 2, Darkseid would probably be the main villain, right?
But we still got to see, like, the Omega beams and things like that. So I was really happy with all of the delivery. I mean, the way I really think about the Snyder Cut, Jacob, since you mentioned it, the DC animated movies are, everyone is kind of like a slightly different take on almost the same story. Like, almost all of them are about the beginning of the Justice League, and Cyborg always has big features in these movies. It just felt like another version of that. It felt like a big budget version of that, where I watch it and I'm like, yeah, I'm not crazy about the way they did X, Y, and Z, but this is cool. Like
Totally.
watching
But
it in that context, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I've kind of always wanted to see that in a live action movie, being a DC fan, and like seeing the Omega beams in action, and then seeing like even talk about the anti-life equation, all that new God stuff, like would have been so cool to go into more in like Justice League 2.
Yeah, that nightmare sequence, right, where you see them losing basically. Colin, what do you think about Steppenwolf? I mean, being more familiar than everyone. Let's round it out.
Yeah,
and Darkseid
totally
for that matter.
Guys. Well, you gotta say better than the original. It did not hit me until the end of the film where I was like, oh, this is what happened with 27 Justice League. That Steppenwolf is Desaad's head on Darkseid's body with Steppenwolf's weapon, right? That's kind of the amalgamation that they make.
He looks like a weird Aaron Eckhart for some reason to me when I look at the screenshots.
Yeah.
In a big helmet. Anyway, yeah, it didn't. That look was
Davy
terrible.
Jones from the Pirates movies, that weird living crab head face.
Yeah, it didn't look good at all in the theatrical.
It looked terrible.
The look is a huge improvement too.
Yeah, I love his big doe eyes.
He
looks like a sad boy.
He's like a sad guy. I think Jacob's into it because it's Ciarán Hinds from Game of Thrones, shot by Fabian Wagner, Game of Thrones, Wonder Woman bad guy, Game of Thrones. I think the Game of Thrones touch here.
Yeah. But yeah, like even the mythos stuff that Wonder Woman is explaining when Darkseid comes to Earth the first time, that was
War for the Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an abbreviated version of that in the theatrical cut, but it's just Steppenwolf instead of Darkseid.
Yes.
So for this, they replaced him with Darkseid, which made a lot more sense.
Well, and Jacob, the thing you don't realize is that it's a Zack Snyder movie because Darkseid isn't wearing a shirt in that scene, and neither is Steppenwolf later. So even the bad guys in Zack Snyder movies that are aliens could
Gotta
still
see them mussies.
shirts off and be yoked.
Shirts
I
optional.
like when his armor comes down and you can see that what I thought, was like a cool helmet was actually just horns that were part of his
The little
body.
soft Bobby.
The weirdest part about that is when, spoiler alert, Darkseid steps on his head at the end, like after he's been beheaded, and one of the horns like cracks off real awkwardly.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
It
He's
has
so
really
scary, and then they do him so
Superman shoots the other horn off with his eyes, and then
Yeah.
Aquaman stabs him, and then Wonder Woman kills him. I mean, these guys
beheads him.
kill.
Which in the 2017 version, I was looking at comparisons. Doesn't he just get his weapon broken and then attacked by his own parademons, which is way less cool?
Yeah, and he kind of just, I think, escapes at the end or something and goes back to.
But this, you feel kind of
world.
bad because he's, you don't want him to take over the world, but it's like you can tell that he wants to get in the good graces, and then Darkseid's just like, well, you fucked up, time to step on your head, and we're going to do this the old-fashioned way.
Right.
And when
He
I
just
saw
wants to
it,
impress his nephew.
I also
Right.
felt like it was kind of a nod to Marvel and like almost like a subtweet of them saying like, oh, Wonder Woman went for the head, she didn't miss like, fucking Thor did against Thanos.
That's funny.
So they're like, yeah, he went for the head. So I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know if that was
Steppenwolf's like just
intentional
more
or
of a better Ronin, better version of Ronin.
Batman puts a gun to an alien's head and blows its brains out at one point when it's shooting a gun at Barry Allen.
Yeah, it's true. It is a little darker, obviously, with Zack Snyder. We got F-bombs now.
How many
Yeah, you have
times?
Wonder Woman just murdering people.
How many times in this movie does someone get thrown like against a wall, and then there's just a big like blood splatter behind where their head obviously exploded, but then they just continue the scene like normal?
Yeah, Zach's
Right.
a big
Zach
fan
loves
of
that.
people getting thrown against walls. It's a
Yeah.
metaphor
That's
for
why
what
I love
happened to his
the,
cut.
Yeah, I love the Wonder Woman bank heist. That's all in the theatrical cut, but there's no like you don't see her killing anyone. This one is just like, yeah, she's just murdering these people, and then it blows up the end guy with her gauntlets in the end.
She's trying to stop a bomb and
then
blows
like-
up the bank anyway.
You can be
Yeah.
whatever you want to be, princess. I
found
destroyed
that.
this whole
Can I be a
show.
meta-human? Can I
Yeah.
be super?
The heavy-handedness, you do kind of have to yell at them. Marvel does it with the she's got help, the girl power sequence that gets made fun of a lot. Look at the boys. But this one, I mean, Steppenwolf says, I dibs on her. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to own her. And she says, no one owns me. Or just stuff like that. It's like,
I
come
like
on,
that,
Wonder
though.
Woman.
No, I
love
like
the,
Wonder Woman better in this movie than in Wonder Woman 1984.
No way.
I love
Absolutely.
the Amazons, like, bathe in their fear. Show him your fear. Like,
We have no
like,
fear.
like, this is what you would watch like when you're in high school and you're suiting up for the big game and you're just like getting super stoked. Like,
Totally.
that is
Not us
the
united.
visually equivalent. Of
Great
that.
take.
I don't care
100%.
how many demons and how many hills. He's never fought this demon in this hill.
What's your target
This
audience?
is what Victor
Zach?
Stone
Locker
watched
rooms.
before he went out to that football game. He was listening to that. Let's go.
I like that they're all about teamwork and they're pumping each other up. They're doing combo attacks and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's what the Justice League should be doing. Like, they should be working together.
There was a really close ripoff to the Age of Ultron slo-mo, the whole team united. For
Oh yeah,
1
they all
second.
jump in a cut.
I don't know. I'm here for it.
Good.
Like, I want to complain about some things as a Batman stan though. Every hero gets their independent moment to like shine in like a little one shot inside this movie. You have Flash meeting Iris, doing the meet cute, doing the rescue scene so you can see how his powers work. You have Cyborg doing the cool like in the internet, giving that lady all the money. You have the Wonder Woman scene with the bank. Aquaman, you have the rescuing the fishermen. Where's that for Batman and Superman? They don't get those moments. Like,
well, I think that's
the one thing I wish made it from the Whedon cut is the scene where Batman takes down a parademon, and like there's Gotham is confused because they think Batman is the parademon because he's spooky and those things are spooky too. I wish that scene would have been reworked and kept because I wanted more. I wanted Batman to have that moment that I feel like everyone else had.
Well, I feel like that's partly because obviously Batman, we've seen more of him than any other DC hero in, movies just in general. And also Batman and Superman had their whole own movie, last time. So we've already seen them a lot on screen. So it's kind of giving the newer characters like Flash and Cyborg a lot more for their like origin stories and stuff. But I could definitely see like I feel like Batman's kind of the glue that holds everyone together in this movie, right?
But Jacob, I think that's again a bottom line problem with this universe, which was Zack's decision to go. And we've talked about it. You don't need to see the superhero origin. I like that he goes. It's an older Batman. We're in this world, but he never earns himself to the audience, like Joe's saying. He never has that moment where we're like, "This is our Batman." Instead, it's this should be your Batman. Look at him; it's my Batman.
But do you think just give me a scene where he's like taking out Killer Croc or Clock King or something like some little one-off dumb scene, just like the bank heist, and for Batman because we're never going to see Ben Affleck's Batman again, and that is a crying shame because I love that suit, I love that character design. I think he does the character really well. I want more of that, and I wish I would have gotten it the same way we got it for everyone else.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think watching BVS before this was I liked it because I got to see more of Ben Affleck Batman, and I think he is really good in that role. And then we also get the nightmare scene, of course. So Mike, you were probably really confused about that. But there is a scene in BVS where he has a post-apocalyptic dream sequence, and then he wakes up and then he sees Flash come to him.
In BVS, Mike, where a grown adult has a nightmare and he gets very upset about it and he kind of flips out. And exactly like Jacob said, we don't know if it's Flash coming. We don't know if it's the result of something else, why these nightmares occur. What did you think?
But the ultimate joke of that is like, it doesn't even pay off in this movie. In this movie, there's a scene where he tells Wonder Woman, I was sitting in this chair and Flash came to me and said all this crazy stuff.
No, I had a bad dream once.
Something darker.
It doesn't even pay off in Justice League. That's setting up for like Justice League.
No, yeah. Well, that's the one nightmare scene we get in this is like setting up more that we're never going to see.
And again, this is Zack Snyder saying, here's everything that I kind of was thinking of before everything went off the rails for one reason or another. And that's the thing that bums me out the most is like, I didn't love it. I think it's very interesting and it's strong in some places and weak in some other places, but it does set up this idea where potentially there was going to be a Justice League 8 where, eventually Darkseid does come and win, and that's going to be the real future. It's like an interesting idea. Like, I like the Joker and Batman teaming up. It's like weird, but I don't know about the scene, but I like that idea where there's like no other choice.
Well, that's all. Yeah. That's like the one interaction that the Jared Leto Joker has ever had with Ben Affleck Batman, basically.
Yeah.
Even though
he
they've
has
existed in the
lines.
same universe
Yeah.
for like 6 years. Yeah.
And we
'Cause
were
there is
able
the
to
scene
do
in
it.
Suicide Squad where like he takes him down, but there's no dialogue. It's
No
literally
scene,
just
right?
like
Maybe
a
there will
monologue.
be in the Ayer cut coming 2022.
Yeah, right. If
No.
it's so successful, but Star Wars couldn't do it with the original cast in 3 movies. You know, at least
Right.
Snyder gave us a good conversation with the Joker and Batman of his universe. It was a reshoot, but you know, hey, interesting scene. It doesn't go anywhere.
I don't know. Was it a good conversation? It's
The
the
reach around.
craziest conversation I've ever seen.
It's pretty funny.
When Harley Quinn died, I fucking promised I'd fucking kill you. Hold on. So that brings up a different question, though, that I want to talk about. Mike, having not seen the other stuff and having to take this film as an introduction to these other characters, keeping in mind, you've seen Aquaman, okay?
Hell yeah.
To the people who saw this the first time or as it's supposedly intended, this would be your first experience to Arthur. You know, some of the stuff's different. Mara's got a British accent. Atlanta seems totally different than the Aquaman movie.
Her look is better in this, though, than in the Aquaman movie.
Better, you dislike the hair, I believe you commented, right?
Her
The
hair is
crazy
so
dye
red
job.
in the Aquaman solo. It just looks like it's a bad, like it totally looks dyed, which if she's...
Well, Aquaman's suit
Atlantean.
looks better in the Aquaman solo because it's green and orange. It's.
I don't like
Yeah,
the,
it's
I don't
kind of
like
the
the
real
comic
suit.
accurate suit though in the movie though.
Get outta here.
It's
All
doing
right.
this better.
Well, I ask you, how does it work as introductions to these people?
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the first time you see Barry Allen. This is the first time you see Cyborg. Probably the last time. Ray Fisher does not want to do this movie anymore.
Let me start
I don't
with-
know. What do you think?
I'm gonna start with Cyborg because, man, like this movie is the best backdoor Cyborg origins film. Like, you know, he really is the main
Totally.
character. Joe was saying Batman's kind of sidelined, but Cyborg really is to me the main character of this movie. Again, I couldn't care less about him. I don't watch the Justice League, but after watching this, like I like his character. I like the arc that he has in this. Apparently, that wasn't in 2017. So Cyborg
no,
for me is my
not-
favorite character.
No, he's got a great origin story, and it was completely cut out. He just kind of shows up, and then he's like, "All right, let's do this. I'm a robot man."
The "I'm not broken" line is beautiful. Like that whole idea is really well executed, really ties the whole thing together. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, and there's themes too where it's like he wants to die, right? When he becomes a robot, it's like, where's the how do you shut me down? Like, I don't want this, and he has to find a reason to live and like a new family. You know, it's like a whole lot. He's got a very good arc, and some
Yeah,
of those
and his-
themes are like heavy when you consider what happened in real life.
Totally. And his relationship with his father is really good, and his father sacrifices himself to help the Justice League, which is also not in the original. Yeah,
To
it
mark
just
the
works so
box,
well.
which is clever because they set it up. Oh, it's the hottest thing ever, and then I thought his dad just killed himself for no reason. And I'm like, that was
Yeah, I
stupid.
thought he was trying to fucking commit suicide. I was like, that's crazy.
Like, oh no, he was marking the box. That's actually a smart thing that was in the script. Like, okay,
Seems
Right.
like he didn't need to like kill himself to
Go-
do that. But okay.
Steppenwolf was going to kill him either way. It's like, if I'm
Oh,
going out, I'm
never
going out
mind.
lasers.
Take me to Laser Town, dude.
Yep. Well, the mother box
I thought
created
s-
Cyborg and killed his father. Interesting.
Well, I thought Cyborg was the best part of the original cut as well. This one, he's so much more fleshed out. It's amazing. Joe, irony. Now, DC Comics, the way Justice League usually is, it's Green Lantern. It's not necessarily Cyborg. It's Martian Manhunter. It's not necessarily Cyborg. When New 52 came about, Jeff Johns, writer and creator of that universe, wanted Green Lantern to come back so much that they got rid of Jon Stewart, put in Hal Jordan, and they kind of said you need some diversity representation. He was the one who pushed forward putting Cyborg in Justice League. Now we know, Joe, Ray Fisher, not a big fan of Jeff Johns.
Absolutely hates him.
Is that
With reason.
crazy? I mean,
And Joss
I thought he
Whedon.
did a lot of
Yeah.
justice to his version. I thought Ray was great, right?
Yeah, I thought Ray was really strong. I think he's one of the best written characters in there. Like I think Cyborg and Flash, I think, were the best backdoored here, and they were the only ones who, at the time, didn't have anything on the docket. Like Aquaman was on the docket. Wonder Woman had already happened, Wonder Woman had already happened. Batman vs Superman had already happened. So like those two, I think you spent the most time with for a reason. And in the movie, or in the theatrical cut, it's the complete opposite. So, like, again,
Yeah, I mean, those are...
I watched it twice. Like, I was really excited to rewatch the Flash scenes and the Cyborg scenes. And I remember like, I was writing some other stuff, and then when certain scenes came up, it'd be like, okay, I'm going to watch it for 10 minutes. Oh, we're going back to just like talking in the Sad Boy Lake house. I'm going to go back to what I was doing before.
That was my college house, was the Sad Boy Lake house. How did you
Sad
know?
Boy Lake house, dog. Give me them frosted glass walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Flash works too. Yeah, Jacob, I don't know, you have any thoughts on some of these character introductions?
Yeah, I mean, the Flash has always been one of my favorite characters. Like Batman and the Flash are like my favorite DC characters. So seeing some more Flash stuff is always good. I'm not a huge fan of like the actor that plays the Flash in this. I don't know if they're still doing Ezra Miller, yeah. I mean, he was in obviously
Beasts.
Grindelwald too, and I hated him in that.
He's in your favorite movie based on your third favorite book series from when you were a kid.
Right. But it was cool, and what I especially like about the Flash in this movie is that when so obviously they do the slow-mo thing that they've done that X-Men did with Quicksilver, so it's kind of been done before, but obviously Zack Snyder loves some slow-mo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a perfect mixture. But at the same time, if every character has their own slow-mo scenes, then it kind of takes away the uniqueness of Flash slow-mo. At the same time, I still did like the scenes like with Iris West, and I like when he starts running fast or doing something fast, there's like effects on the world, like there's lightning and like he rips out of his shoes and stuff. I really like how there's like destruction around him because if you're moving it that fast, like certain things would happen like that, right? So I thought that was a cool detail as well.
I watched the Iris West scene 3 times because out of context, there's like the funniest fucking moment ever. Again, it's out of place music in slow-mo.
Hot dogs.
And he's looking at her and he's like staring at her and being like, oh, this is a pretty girl. I'm having a moment with her that she'll never know about. And then he just like reaches up, takes a hot dog and puts it in his pocket. Someone's going to see that clip in 50 years and be like, yo, what the fuck were they doing back in 2021?
But so he can make a little quip at the end where he's like, I brought meat snacks.
He's trying to get the job, man.
So fucking weird. It's out of context. You just take those moments where staring at the woman, hot dog, like he's fucking Homer Simpson. It was so funny.
Yeah, that's true. But just seeing the Flash in live action, like I prefer the TV Flash Grant Gustin better, but it's still cool to see him get more backstory in this.
Jacob, I prefer the big budget when he does the Speed Force reversal of time at the end, and Zack Snyder, a guy who has an eye for a frame, decides that the Speed Force looks like the universe, cosmos, endless space, and him running as the bricks reform underneath him. I'm fucking blown away.
I love that scene. That's one of the best parts of the movie for me, is that climax with him running, kind of almost like going in time or whatever, where he's running faster than the speed of light, so you can't even see the ground before he steps on it. I thought that was a really cool climax. And that whole climactic scene of each of the them kind of getting a moment to defeat Steppenwolf was really cool too.
We're gonna have you run in with Cyborg where you...
Zack, he's got such an incredible brain for the visual. He has everything planned out in his head before we get there. It's remarkable to be a part of.
Everything that we work in, we're stepping into his drawings. And so you're like, can I see this scene before we make it? And he has beautiful drawings.
It does have one of the better third acts for a film whose third act happens 3 hours into it.
Oh, man.
And Joe, you're saying Batman doesn't have enough to do. Batmobile stuff, climbing up, shooting people. He's got the cool gauntlet that absorbs energy that Jeremy Irons probably made to help him kill Superman in the last movie.
No, he made it after he met Wonder Woman and saw what her gauntlets did. Which is why there's the quip of like, oh, maybe you should make him a lasso in black, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
I think one of the biggest losses of Batfleck, which more than anything, I just wish we could have a Batfleck movie. I'm excited for the Robert Pattinson movie, I really am, but my thesis of this episode when I get to it, like I'll call back to this moment right now, like I'm the Snyder Cut myself.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
But Joe, you're going back really in time. You've gone back too far.
I would have made the whole suit out of that material, but that's just me.
Well,
if you're that rich. Here's one thing. It's Jeremy Irons, right? Or Jeffrey? I always get confused.
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons.
That was the point.
Alfred.
Yeah, he was in the D&D movie. It was probably his best role. He's just
he's great. Yeah, he's always in fantasy.
He's kind of like he's like Lucius Fox and Alfred in this, though. He's like inventing shit and being Alfred,
He's he's an Alfred who's been doing this for Bruce for like 30 years. Like this is not his first rodeo. He's like, okay, aliens. Wow, we'll make super gauntlets.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. I mean, I like him
it.
anyway. Yeah, I think it's fun. It's a fun take on Alfred. Yeah, for sure.
And he also got some more scenes in this movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, I'm amazed that Joss Whedon cut out so much stuff where I'm like, but this answers questions that your movie sets up. Is just little dialogue that his Alfred has. I would argue, since Darren Aronofsky was doing a year one, they've been obsessed with this idea of what if there was an Alfred that was also the mechanic of it. It is cool. Jeremy Irons is not my favorite Alfred. This is I love Batfleck, but this is the little jokes of this is the guy I work for. Yeah, that is funny, but it's not enough for me.
Why couldn't Aquaman go to an island of the Caribbean? Wow. I do like Michael Caine for my Alfred.
Yeah, I like Jeremy Irons a lot.
Michael Caine's too soft for an Alfred, if that makes sense. Like I like an Alfred who's involved in it and a little like stern or a little like I don't know, like Alfred was
Bruce, get it together.
War medic. I
like Michael Go yelling at in Tim Burton films about how old everybody is.
But we see Jeremy Irons and Batfleck's relationship going back to Batman v Superman, and I do like their dynamic because Batfleck is kind of the almost like getting too old for this shit kind of Batman, where they've been doing it for 20 years together, so they have that rapport that I think works really well.
And he lost his protege,
right?
That
feels like a surrogate father, which is like one of those things in the relationship that's not featured enough in the movies, because in the movies they always just highlight that he's like sad orphan boy. They don't highlight the fact that like he's found a second father in Alfred and how important that relationship is.
Right.
He's kind of like just the help a lot of times, right?
Yeah. He's the only one, Joe, who he is not afraid he will die on the job. He's afraid he will drink himself to death. Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it's a weird Bruce, man. It's a weird Bruce all the way back to Batman vs Superman though, because there's a scene where he wakes up and there's a woman next to him, and like Batman is like notoriously a sad, lonely boy. Like he's not sleeping with a super she would not be spending the night. He would be like, "Excuse me, you need to leave. I have to brood now."
That's just to keep up his playboy image that the public's used to, right? He doesn't. I don't know. Like it's the alter ego is actually Bruce Wayne, right? And Batman's the real guy.
Yeah,
that's true.
I think even in BVS he has a line where he's like, "Oh, I'm older now than my father ever was." So he's kind of like almost expected to die on the job and is like disappointed that he hasn't yet.
Even on the final climax, you were talking about this earlier. It's like he's like, I'm gonna do some shit. Just keep with the mission, even if I'm in trouble. I just want to die.
Totally, but I think he does.
The dome doesn't go down. Oh, the dome will go down. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna give it like 9 million rockets.
But Joe, you say you say Batman doesn't get enough to do in this movie, but I say he does have a good arc over the 2 movies that he's in, where it's about him, learning to believe in others and put faith in others, whereas before he's just a complete lunatic.
Very Zack Snyder.
I'll give him that. Like, I'll give him the arc. I'll give him enough scenes. What I wanted is one, we're in Gotham City. You see the bat signal. You see Batman swoop down and stop a mugging. Like, I wanted one unguilt-filled hero moment for this Batman, because we'll never see it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, the epilogue, the original pitch, you were talking about the Comic-Con appearance, Zack Snyder, when he makes the announcement, he comes out, he reads the Frank Miller book. The one thing I want you to remember is that I kicked your ass, the big Batman quote. He's a guy who's obsessed with The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
How about the final scene where he's on top of the bat tank? You see the mutants have been beat up or whatever. It's not an action scene, but that's a callback to something.
Yeah, that's a callback to something. Also, it's like he didn't kill him. Like, he's got the bad guys tied up. I don't know. Like, Frank Miller's Batman is not my favorite Batman. Like, I really wish he was more into Neil Adams and
sure.
Like not the. That's not true to Snyder though, so I can't complain too much. I don't know.
I mean, he's. I like that they show a Batman that is, like, because I've always seen solo Batman films where he's like so reliant on his technology to kind of pull his weight. You know, he just got to knock harder and more rockets, and he's got a gun, right? It's like he really doesn't fit in amongst these new gods, and that's not like a knock on him. Like, it's just interesting to see how he keeps up, you know, by taking out the parademons with like grenades and all of his tech. You do get a lot of that in the final climax, but it would have been great to have just a Batman scene, and maybe comes, I'm getting too old for this shit, Alfred. Mortis.
Show what he's good at.
I just wanted the equivalent of the bank scene and the Iris West scene for Batman. And that is literally just because, like, I loved this take on Batman, and I wish he would have gotten his moment in the moonlight.
Yeah.
Can we go to the opposite side of the coin then? You're talking about somebody who's introduced at the beginning. How about somebody who's introduced in the first scene and then you don't see for 2 hours and 40 minutes in it? Henry Cavill's Superman kicked off this entire universe. You would hope Justice League would be a little about him. Jacob, he maybe has 3 scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
What did you think of Superman?
Well, yeah, he doesn't get a lot to do in this movie. I think he first shows up like 2.5 hours in or something crazy like that of a 4-hour. So basically an entire long movie's length before Superman
The Deathly Hallows Part 1 of the Justice League.
It ends with him, Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly. He comes out of the grave and he's angry.
Right. But I mean, like, you know, obviously he died in Batman v Superman, and a big problem that DC's always had is that when Superman is there, like, any threat is not really a threat because Superman can easily, like, when he shows up, he kicks Steppenwolf's ass in like a second. So it's like, if he was there the whole time,
Say that in this movie, Jacob, their argument is the only reason Darkseid's never come here is because the mother boxes were scared of Superman. We need him back if we have any chance.
Yeah, I mean, what happened before Superman existed on Earth? Why couldn't they come then? I don't know. But
plot holes, obviously. Yeah, they did have Zeus. Right. They did, yeah. They got
and Ares and
don't worry.
Right, but like, I mean, like, you know, 20 years ago or something, before he shows up on Earth, there's like a long stretch where the Darkseid
after Zeus retired.
Because the mother boxes weren't awake yet.
Oh, okay.
Don't even start trying to make sense of that, guys.
I must have missed some stuff.
We also have Darkseid, who gets beaten up and forced to leave the planet and then takes his rage out on everyone else. Like, what do you mean you lost? It's like, Darkseid, you lost too 1,000 years ago. What are you talking
about? And also,
about?
you never put a
axe to the throat.
But like, can't he say, "Hey, mark that on a map"? You know, before he passes
we'll be back.
They also forgot the mother boxes. Oh, let's not grab those very important pieces of technology.
They never kept track of their location with their spaceships. Yeah, a little silly. It is funny though. I kept texting you guys. You said 2 hours some odd. Superman comes back to life. You know, I would update you. 1 hour in, still waiting for the movie to start. 2 hours in, still waiting for the movie to start. And then finally, once the team gets together, because to that point, the whole movie is like, yeah, we really can't do shit without Superman. So it's interesting that there's this Justice League that's completely useless without Superman. You know what I mean?
But that's what I mean is, like, a lot of times you have to have contrived ways for Superman to be occupied so that he can't come in and immediately defeat the villain. So he kind of takes his time. Even when he comes back to life, he's having a moment with Lois while they're all, you know, doing their thing.
Going to the farm.
He says,
and see what's up.
He says, I need to make my own choices now in this life. I'm going to do things my way this time. Jacob, you just said you watch BVS and all that stuff. Given what we know about this guy, what has changed post-resurrection for him? All he does is go put on a black suit and do exactly the same things he's been doing for the past 2 movies.
Right. And this character, he's always been kind of conflicted between, you know, people want him to be a certain thing, but then his parents keep telling him, like, no, just do whatever you want. Like, you don't
Fuck the world.
You don't owe this world anything, is what Martha Kent says in BVS. So it's like, what did change after he died? Nothing really. Like, he's still doing what he wants.
Well, he might be a papa. He might be a papa soon.
Maybe.
Pregnancy
Mike,
test?
what do you think of the character, Henry Cavill as this character, for the little bit you did get to see?
So, again, not being too familiar with the previous movies, and like everyone's talking about Zack Snyder's brooding universe, and it's like, oh, this Batman or this Superman doesn't really want to be the savior of humanity. Sick of it, right? Get these freaking mortals out of here, like, if I'm reading that right. So then by the end of this, for him to die and then come back and be like, you know what, like, I could probably do a better job of being Space Jesus. And you know, like that's an art.
Time in the New Testament.
Yeah, and then like, you know, Batman too has faith or hope, whatever. I think the line is faith. So it's like there's a line of going from being brooding to more hopeful, which is like, Zack Snyder.
Mike,
guys are the same art that Batman
line
has, though.
But the first line Superman, real Superman in his black suit has is, he gets hit by an axe in the neck and he says, not impressed. That is to violence that is being committed to him. That is not an edgy, brooding Superman to you?
Well, it is, but he does. First of all, that's my review of the first half of the movie. Not impressed. But I mean, I think by the end, because he's like, I have a second chance. I'm not going to waste it. Again, I think there's themes. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but tied to like what happened. Unfortunately, with Zack Snyder's family. You know, it's like you have to make the choice to have something to live for, right? And to try to be better. Cyborg goes through it. Batman does. Superman does. Maybe it's deeper than I think. I don't know. I kind of like that messaging where people who kind of are over it finding reasons to continue, right?
Something to live for.
I think that we get the right amount of Superman in this movie because we've already seen he already had Man of Steel. He was a big part of BVS, and I think both him and Bruce Wayne go through kind of a similar arc where in BVS they both don't trust anyone and they're both trying to stop the other one because they're both think that they should be like the martyr for Earth and be protector of Earth. And then obviously in the end they learn to work together, which they probably should have done earlier, but they were both too stubborn. So
they really only learn that when he's like about to die. So
yeah,
I don't know if that really.
That's why I say Batman is like a complete chump in BVS because he just gets tricked so hard when it was so obvious that like yeah, like you could have been working with Superman. Yeah, I do like like in the theatrical cut when Superman comes back to life. He has that dig at BVS where he says, "Do you bleed?" And there's that whole scene that's obviously gone in this cut too.
Do you bleed? And he's got like the mustache.
It's like a different mouth is moving.
It's like over here. Jacob, I think you would feel differently if Superman was your favorite character about having the right amount of Superman in this movie.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Personally, like I'm fine with the amount of Superman. I wish he would take the cape off and just have the black suit, no cape, like the 90s
Krypton style.
Cool. Yeah, he said he wanted to do the mullet, Joe.
I would have loved that, dude. That would have made me so happy.
Yeah.
Two Superman changes I would make: give him the mullet, take the cape away, and then at the end when you get the classic Christopher Reeves homage to like opening up the suit, should have been red and blue, man. Should have been red and blue.
Why?
I like the black suit though.
I do. And here's a fun fact about the black suit that I learned is. You wear a black T-shirt and it absorbs the sunlight and you get hot easier.
Sure.
Apparently, the black suit is able to make him heal faster because it absorbs the sunlight. So it has like a
solar
practical
regeneration.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the
awesome.
comics, he puts that suit on after he dies and comes back, just like the movie.
Which is
like
awesome.
A lot of that is comic accurate. But
once he's healed,
he's already said in Justice League 2 and Justice League 3, he would have gone back to the red and blue because as we see in the Nightmare universe, flash forwards and stuff like that, it is the red and blue. I just wish that final homage would have been red and blue.
He's gotten out of triage. He can wear the
It's
old
not
suit.
worth saying the intended plans. There's a lot of stuff he's put out there for what 2 and 3 would have been. You can look at the pictures, the screenshots of the storyboards as they go through. To me, he says exactly what you're saying, Joe, that it's not until he's succumbed to the anti-life equation that you would ever see Superman put on his original suit once he becomes a villain. To me, that is further evidence. Zack Snyder just does not understand Superman. He just does not like the character at the end of the day.
Right.
He likes that he's strong and built.
Even I think when he took on Man of Steel, he really wanted to make a Batman movie, but so he basically made a Superman movie that was a Batman movie.
I think so.
And that's kind of always how he felt.
He would have made it wrong because the right way to end that movie would have been, no, I won't kill you. I have to trap you in the Phantom Verse.
Right. Totally.
The Phantom Zone.
What I do like about this movie, though, even in that last scene where, Batman and Joker have the scene together and Batman says he's going to kill the Joker. What I like about that, though, is that he's not killing the Joker. And immediately after he says that, the Joker's like, oh, you almost had me there, but I don't think you're actually going to kill me. So he's still kind of staying true to that. And I also like that it wasn't the standard, like, oh, I'm just like you, Batman, like the Heath Ledger era Joker. Like it's kind of a spin on that, but it's different.
No.
Yeah.
This is the first one to be, we're not two sides of the same coin. I am in love with you.
Yeah, they don't run from it at all. He offers him to reach around.
They explicitly say,
explicitly.
was it Amber Heard? You've never lost someone you loved, and then they just cut to the Joker.
Right.
And I'm like, that's the man Batman loves. That's right. Yeah.
So I actually really like that Joker interaction, even with the very funny lines of like him giving a reach around.
Wow.
But
Jared Leto's Joker is your favorite Joker, Jacob.
Well, he's totally different.
I just love
he's playing him totally different in this than he did like in Suicide Squad too. So I do like this version better.
I like his police
Normies
badges.
Like Us, the Snyder Cut episode, chapter 14. I do like that he offers to give Batman a reach around.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
What are they? Here's the thing with those epilogues, though. They do hint at, like, maybe Zack Snyder doesn't understand Superman or whatever, but he just wants to tell the grim, dark version of this universe. And it's like, damn, all right, well, I'm kind of I'm in for it. It's never going to happen. But at the end of watching this, you know?
You want to see Mad Max Batman?
Now, that's the interesting question. Because
I like that
Mike,
trench coat.
Restore the Snyderverse. People say, should it continue? Let him go on. Let him at least make another one of these. I was having a conversation with Jacob where you were saying, Jacob, well, when that movie ends, don't you want to see more? Don't you? I mean, you got to see what happens with Darkseid invading Earth and stuff. Agreed. I do want to see all that stuff. I don't agree that it should be this restored, let him have control, let him do these things. The only reason I feel that way, and I think other people too, is because this movie is the first DC movie that feels like it takes place in a living, breathing world. All the other ones are like, I don't know, this is an Aquaman movie. No way could anybody else show up. This one, I'm like, oh yeah, Darkseid could do anything, and blah, blah, blah could do this. I would love to see something where, there's 3 more characters introduced in a Justice League 2.
Oh,
I fear that they're never going to get there again.
Yes.
No, I agree where this movie, feels like, it's the first time it feels like one of those animated DC movies where, people could show up, like the Justice League is a thing that exists, and, members come in and out on like a rotational basis a lot in those Justice League shows.
6 chairs.
Kilowog in the, Nightmareverse.
The Green Lantern?
Yeah, the Green Lantern. He's laying dead, and, the Hall of Justice is there. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like my
Superman cradles a skeleton. Just go like, oh yeah, baby, give it to me.
My feelings about the Nightmareverse really tie into my final thoughts. So like I'm gonna abstain from that from now.
Okay,
I feel like it's all one big piece.
I wouldn't necessarily want a whole Nightmareverse movie, but I would want like a direct continuation of this where the Justice League has been established. Bring in Martian Manhunter, bring in Green Lanterns, bring in Blue Beetle. Cast our guy Miguel from Cobra Kai.
I just want that because the legwork's done. It's the first time it feels like somebody has done something like, oh, it's on its own feet. Like, there it is.
It just took 4 years and 4 hours.
Yeah.
But we've done it.
So many swings at bat.
I mean, it's like they tried to emulate the Marvel, what Marvel did, and they realized like they kind of did it, but just in a very rushed way, and it didn't work out. But now they're kind of at the place where Marvel was after Avengers 1, so they could go from there, but I don't think they will, obviously.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be restored. You know what I mean? It's like
restore it.
No, it's just an anomaly, right? And honestly, you could lop off the entire epilogue. That'll save you about 25 minutes right there. When they're standing triumphantly after defeating Steppenwolf, that's the end of your film. Right.
Cut.
Yeah.
No, dog. No. Okay. I need to see an alien fly down to Batman the Sad Boy Lake
knock
house.
on his glass window.
Can I help you?
Yeah.
Hey,
well, I guess I'll see you around.
I think your mom and dad
excuse me, I was just having another nightmare.
I think you're a good boy, and your mom and dad would love you very much. Anyway, I know you've never seen
Thank you, Mr. Haley. Wait, you said your name was the Manhunter?
Martian
Bang, bang.
the Manhunter.
It's a very threatening name if you've never met that.
Get back here.
But as a DC fan, I did love seeing, John Jones in there. I know that he wanted to actually, Zack Snyder wanted to put Green Lantern in there. He wanted to put John Stewart Green Lantern. That didn't work out, so he added Martian Manhunter instead. But I loved it. And that character that he's playing has been in these movies since Man of Steel, and he was in BVS.
And he thought the best way he could help was to have coffee with Lois Lane, Martha Manhunter.
I thought that was funny because, Lois at one point is going to talk to the real Martha and be like, hey, thanks for coming to talk to me that one time.
Yeah, you really talked me out of a dark place. And she's going to be like, what? Why are you at my farm?
Yeah, but doesn't he have like powers? Like, shouldn't he be using those instead of just you should be around, Lois. Go back to work.
I assume he read Mrs. Kent's mind to do all that. I think he's using them.
Yeah, he didn't help out in the climactic fight, but after he was inspired, and he's like, you know what? Maybe I will help you guys next time.
One day. Sad Lake boy, you did it right.
That was cool how you used that box. That was pretty clever. I dig it.
And he's like, okay. Goodbye.
Going back to sleep and gonna have a nightmare again.
A whole movie about an alien existing threatened my entire universe, but you, a big green guy called the Manhunter, talk to you later.
Up at my house
that just shows how much he's grown.
My Joker fantasy.
And learn to accept people and put faith in them. You know.
Yeah, right.
No, he hadn't had his Duncan yet, so he was still waking up.
Yeah, classic.
Make no mistake, I will fucking kill you. It's crazy.
All right. I think we're winding down here. Let's dive into our final thoughts. We'll jump over there. Final thoughts, Zack Snyder's Justice League on Normies Like Us.
Oh, man.
Remember when they like sang in like Finnish for like 15
Do
minutes?
Aquaman!
And then one lady
smelled that
sweater.
Why did that happen?
I like Zack. He's got a lot of enthusiasm, and he's got this boyish kind of energy where he's just psyched to be at work every day. And I think you need that to get through a Herculean effort like these movies.
Ready? Ready. Okay, let's go. When I'm on set and we're shooting, it's a fun atmosphere for me. I mean, I don't want to say it's a playground, but it is a bit.
It was just so nice, and there was never a dull moment on set. We're always talking or making each other laugh. It was just awesome.
Hey,
I have no idea.
Yeah, throw that shirt into the ocean. All right, bye.
I'm gonna litter this bottle. I love the ocean. Fuck.
Fuck you.
Yeah,
so
but
crazy.
I gotta say, real quick, the ancient lamentation music. How many? Did you have subtitles on? Because anytime Wonder Woman does anything,
I always watch with subtitles.
Yeah, it says ancient lamentation music playing.
Every time.
Where it goes, those chants.
Or triumphant music.
It was every time she came on screen, those chants started.
So
and
there's
I like
a big meme now where people just posting ancient lamentation music plays under everything. But anyway.
Crazy.
Well, here's the thing. I do like the Wonder Woman score with like the guitars that come in.
It is
that's
my
a really
favorite
cool
theme.
song. Yeah. So, they should have done that instead of the Ancient Lamentations more. But
no, dog. Ancient Lamentations for life.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
That's what they do. Yeah, dude.
When you lamentate, you better lamentate anciently. That's what
I'm a weirdo. Okay, I have a hot dog in my pocket.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not normal. Do you see my hat?
Right. So I have a question before we do final thoughts here. Does everybody hate their parents in these movies? Because you got Cyborg hates his parents. Barry Allen's got a strained relationship with his parents. Batman's got no parents. Superman's got no parents. We got mother boxes, Martha boxes. I don't know what they're what we're doing here, but there's a lot of parentage themes here. Is
totally
that intentional?
Even the chapter titles when it's like beloved son, beloved mother is one.
Father twice
over. Yeah. Every male superhero I think has daddy issues in this movie basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool, but
yeah, dude, it's sick.
Zach, call your dad.
His mom passed away a couple years before I think he made Men of Steel.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, you feel for the guy.
Tragic
this
run,
is
yeah.
A triumph. We're very impressed this came out. It seems like it's a dead end. AT&T has used the cul-de-sac metaphor. This leads nowhere. It's an amazing detour. We got to give that up, right, guys? Like, it is truly... We laughed off pod about Blade Runner, the final cut, or...
I watched the Hobbit fan cut. Like, there's been a lot of recuts of stuff or the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's what it gets most compared to, I think.
One I wanted to check out recently that I was reading about is there's this movie called Kingdom of Heaven, right? And apparently there's a director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven that's like, Ridley Scott directed, and apparently the director's cut is so much better than the theatrical cut. It's like almost a different movie, so it's very similar to this, I think.
The other situation,
but yeah, Ridley Scott obviously famous for doing that with Blade Runner as well.
Yeah. And I'm saying the others. You want to go ahead?
I was just gonna say it's interesting on the flip coin of that. If we're in the Alien franchise still, David Fincher's Alien 3 is a movie where people say, make your director's cut, own that. And that's a director who says, I quit when I quit. Like if something starts to not go my way, I can afford to walk away from it and just say, no, Alien 3 is not my movie. It's almost an Alan Smithy to him, right? It is impressive that Zack Snyder goes, I can't give up on any of this. He's done all these quotes where he says, those are my friends, those people who made that movie. I hate that they even had to go through an awkward situation with Joss, and this bad stuff that's sort of coming out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where I don't think we'll see anything like it again because the movie was basically finished. There's, tragedy. He removes himself, maybe with some studio disagreements, right?
Mike, there's the HBO Max of it all. The fact that when it was announced in May, that was before Warner Brothers had done their deal of day in picture. The fact that they were taking theater releases to your living room at the same time. They needed content on HBO Max. I think this was a great opportunity for them to say we had something in the vault that, like you said, we could spend a little bit of money on to get movie quality, effects and just a look out of it and all. And it paid off for them. I think it will.
Yeah. And I think distinct from, another fantastic superhero movie that had a lot of fan influence, Sonic the Hedgehog. That's more of a scenario where, the fans are trying to complain and get something changed from the studio side. This is where an artist had a vision that was kind of wrested from him for one reason or another, and now he's finally getting to finish it. It is a bit of a love letter to the fans, but it's not like the fans demanding a change in a film. It's really letting the artist create their vision.
Yeah, but also at the same time, there was a big fan contingent of online where people are release the Snyder Cut. So
make it happen.
Obviously, there's a big
or else.
It's interesting because there's sort of like people look down on the true Snyder believers for a long time online.
I did. I'll admit it right here. You've heard me. I mean,
easily, me too.
I thought it was the biggest joke. Yeah.
I mean, I still do. So.
Yeah, I still do. I mean, there's kind of a toxic element to some of it too, where some of his biggest fans were kind of toxic online.
They just got out of the gym. They're high on testosterone and pre-workout.
Raging.
They lost the big game. Their dads aren't talking to them.
No one's dad is talking to anyone.
At the same time, though, I think this was a huge win for Zack Snyder. Like you said, he's listening to Dashboard Confessional right now, vindicated.
Guys, don't make me laugh anymore,
his highest film on Rotten Tomatoes he has ever released is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Wow, that's was
amazing.
Not review bombed.
Yeah, and you can say that happens with Marvel and Star Wars and stuff, where everything's become this bullshit culture war, where are you a Whedon fan or are you a Snyder fan? Are you a prequels fan or a sequels fan? Everything has to be that way.
Choose a side.
Yeah, it's almost why do we need to do that?
Why
people
can't we
need
just
to yell
unite?
at something on YouTube.
Wow, are you saying unite the normies?
Form the unity.
Unite the normies.
The unity.
I'm gonna jump into my final thoughts because I kind of withheld some stuff. Earlier I was talking about Jeffrey Irons, and I was like, I'm gonna pause for a second, and this is me jumping into that moment, being like, did I go too far? Am I here at the right time? I'm really quirky. I really enjoyed this 4-hour cut. I would not call it a movie. I would not enjoy it if the original didn't exist. I would like to see more with some of these elements that work, and I think you should throw out the rest. I don't think DC needs to be Marvel. I think DC's at its best when it lets Zack Snyder do something insane, like make a 4-hour cut of a movie where Joker says he's going to give Batman a reach around. That's not flying in any theater in any circumstance. And if you think so, you're living in a fucking fantasy world. I want to see the Nightmareverse continued in the comic universe. Give me Zack Snyder's universe in the comics. Let this stuff have a life, but don't make it the end all be all of Justice League or Batman. Let this be Zack Snyder's Justice League. Let this be the Zack Snyder verse and let that continue. But don't stop what you're doing with having fun with characters like Shazam and Aquaman. Don't stop what you're doing by reinventing Batman with a younger actor. And like, I think, you know, there's a lot to be excited about with the Robert Pattinson stuff, but I would love to go back to the Bruce Wayne stuff. And I think audiences, or the Bruce Wayne, the Batfleck stuff, I think audiences are smart enough now to let these things coexist. And I feel like the Snyder Cut is proof of that. And I hope that that's the direction we head in the future.
Nice.
That's
nice.
it. That's my final thoughts.
Totally.
Well said, sir.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I agree with you there, Joe. Like, I think they can keep what works. And obviously, you know, they've done that with Wonder Woman, Aquaman, all that stuff. Maybe they'll still make a Flash movie with Ezra Miller. I don't know. They've been making that for like 6 years, but
it's still happening.
Yeah. So keep what works. I mean, they can keep, and like they said, I think even announced in like a press release or whatever that like they might have multiple Batmans coexisting at the same time in movies, which I think is fine. Yeah. So I'd love to see a Batfleck movie for sure. But for my final thoughts, like I just want to say I enjoyed watching this a lot. Is it a great movie? No. Is it like overly long and overly indulgent? Yes. Is it better than the theatrical cut? 100%, absolutely, in like every single way, basically. And I mean, the biggest complaints I had about the theatrical cut were weak villain, Steppenwolf, too many cringy jokes and whatnot, the tone, the coloring, and also in the climactic battle, the random Russian family that they keep cutting to show like the human element.
Mike, you do not miss that.
that was terrible.
I've heard
just imagine, during the climactic action, if they just kept cutting to these random family trying to escape, and you know, Flash had to help them escape and everything. All that's gone. So they've addressed all the biggest problems that I had with the theatrical cut and improved it. So 100%, I would say this is a better movie. And this is, you know, I've always wanted to see a live action Justice League. Like, I like all the Marvel movies and everything, but I am more of a DC guy. So just seeing all that DC lore on the big screen, not a huge screen, but, you know, my TV's big enough. One other thing I did. Yeah, I got 55 incher. The 4:3 aspect ratio, not a fan of that. I just want to say, and it's a personal thing, but I like my movies widescreen.
Can I ask you a question, Jacob?
Yeah.
Are you confused by it? Like, there's a camp of people who think it's cropping the edges.
No, I know what it is because it's he wanted to release an IMAX, right?
Exactly.
So it's meant for IMAX, but for home presentation, like on HBO Max, it doesn't make sense. Like, they could have, I guess they would have had to crop the top and bottom, but I prefer, you know, widescreen. I say the wider the better. That's what I'm always saying.
Hell yeah, 235. Give me that
235. I love 235, and I love, you know, Hateful Eight. I don't love that movie, but I love the way it was shot and you know, that kind of thing. So it's a personal choice.
Shooting IMAX, they could have cropped in. There's a lot of headroom sometimes in these shots. I think it could have been widescreen, but it didn't bother me. But you know,
I do think, you know, I guess he was framing it to work with 4:3, so it makes sense that if that's the way he wanted things framed, and I think he did a good job framing things in there. But it's, you know, this is an Instagram. It's not The Lighthouse. You know, it's not a black and white indie movie.
First Cow is the movie he said he saw, and he kind of modeled it around that.
First Cow. I haven't seen that.
I feel like it's also just very much like, you know, the whole point of all of this is to stick to the integrity of his vision, and that's they weren't going to change the format to do that.
Right.
Yeah, just release it. Yeah, we don't care. People are going to watch it. He wanted to do black and white, though, so at least he didn't go that far.
Well, there is the Justice is Gray cut that's going to come out. So I doubt that I'll rewatch that just to see the gray version.
Final thoughts, you're saying. Will you watch it again?
That's a no.
I probably would at some point. Like, I could turn it on just to have it on. But again, I agree with Mike. Like, the first half is very slow and boring at times, and like I said, indulgent. Whereas when they come together as a team, that's when it starts to pick up. And I really like that stuff, including the final fight scene, which I thought was awesome when they're all using their powers together. That, to me, is like what I've always wanted to see from a Justice League movie. So that was really cool. So overall, I do think it was worthwhile to watch and to make. So I'm glad it was made. You know, it's the Snyder Cut. So I'm happy it exists. and I would love to see a Justice League 2, but at the same time, I understand why that's probably not possible.
Yeah.
Normies can't see this unless they watch our video feed we just started putting up. Check that out. But Jacob just held up a cue card that said, "Can I give you a reach around?" So, put that down, dude.
Gotta get our vaccines first, please. If I could jump in here, again, Jacob, you just said it is the Snyder Cut, and that's exactly what it is. As someone who has no, personal stakes in the Justice League or the DC universe, and kind of wrote off Zack Snyder as a hack, that's maybe too harsh, but this movie, right, it is exactly that. It's the Snyder Cut. It is full of Snyder's tropes and kind of his visual style and his directing style. So if you're not a fan of Zack Snyder, you're probably going to be annoyed by the amount of slow motion and how self-indulgent it can feel and how self-important. Did you get the Jesus references yet?
Yeah.
And if you're annoyed by that, you might be annoyed by this movie. But on the terms of does it succeed in what it's trying to do, which is tell a more cohesive, complete version of the Justice League than we got in theaters, tell something that's more tonally consistent with his previous movies, and tell something that kind of wraps up at least this chapter of the DCEU, I'd say 100% succeeds. It's a little long-winded and tedious at times, but it 100% succeeds at what it's trying to do. So I think it's good that it exists, and I really did not give a shit that it was coming out, and I did enjoy it. I think at the end it was a net positive. Don't think I'll watch it again. Could have lost the
it won you
epilogues,
over,
but yeah, if you just play the slow-mo scenes at regular speed, you'll probably get it down to 3 hours easy.
Jesus Christ.
100%. And I just want to say one thing about Zack Snyder too, because I've always heard that he's like a really nice guy too. So it just seems like I think he's a really nice guy who's kind of dumb, but he has a great eye for composition, and I like a lot of his shots sometimes, even if I don't love his color palette all the times, but I like that he sticks to his vision, his own vision. So
yeah, I wouldn't say he's kind of dumb. I think he's very smart, but he likes big dumb things. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
I would compare... He's a nice guy, but he's kind of dumb.
Well, I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I think the most obvious comparison, I guess, is Michael Bay, where Michael Bay has a very distinct vision that all of his movies kind of fall into that. He might not be a dumb guy, but I think he makes dumb guy movies, and that's the same thing with Zack Snyder, right?
Yeah, but I hold Zack Snyder in higher esteem than I do Michael Bay.
I do too, 100%.
Yeah. Colin, how about you, though?
He's an artist with a style. I don't think I could ever separate myself from my aesthetic. Honestly, I don't look at the criticism that much. I mean, I've looked at and sort of analyzed the
rock,
sort of anyone would do, the sort of negative criticism of my films in the past. I just don't. I just haven't found anything within that criticism that would make me believe or change anything I do. So in that way, it doesn't really affect me. If I felt like there was an issue or some sort of something lacking within the work, and I needed to look at that criticism and reevaluate the way I approach things, that would be a different scenario. But I wouldn't change a frame of anything I've done. So the criticism is just criticism.
There you go. I mean, if anything,
he's a myth,
he's confident in himself. Yeah, he's got confidence in himself.
Confident himself to a fault. Mike, you said self-important. I say self-serious. When Joe and Jacob and I got the drunkest I've ever been at a dollar theater and watched Dawn of Justice for the first time, that's what we were laughing at, was how important that movie made itself feel. What falls is fallen. We must go to the light, a beautiful lie. Batman who says if there's even 1% chance that this guy's a bad guy, I gotta fucking kill him. That's different. It's certainly not what I'm used to. It's certainly not what I expected any of that world to be. Again, I'm just kind of not happy with the guy who got the keys to the kingdom, but I'm happy to walk around the kingdom and see the castles he's built. They're interesting structures, and they're easy on the eyes.
And you could take your time.
That's all I got.
Yeah. It's a nice slow stroll.
I love him.
What a nice
I feel bad for him. I've grown on him a lot. Back in the day, I was very anti, but now it's like, I'll say this. Get out of this. I want to see Army of the Dead. I thought that trailer looked dope as fucking hell.
Hell yeah, man. I'm super excited for that.
I did think I turned the corner on him. I watched, some of the interviews about making this, and it's like, yeah, your taste is a little silly and a little big, and but damn it, man, you do your thing, and he does seem like a nice guy. So, Snyder, congratulations on finishing your vision of this thing. You know, yeah, good on
Totally.
you, good on you, man. Happy
Big
for you.
win for
This
you.
podcast is a cheers to him, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think, you know, he does know what he's doing. Like he's winking at the audience sometimes, like with the, you know, we live in a society in the trailer. They shot that just to put it in the trailer. So obviously that's a little like wink and nod at his own like self-importance, right?
It's more evidence to what I was saying earlier, Jacob, about the fact that it's not just a movie for one beast. It offers multiple people that it falls to. You know, Jared Leto said to him, he riffs the "I'm going to give you a reach around" joke, and he says, "Zach, you wouldn't have the balls to put that in a movie." And Zach says, "Oh, you don't think I would?" I mean, there is a, you know, am I a provocateur? I would say yes. You know, he truly does like to push the buttons.
Let's go.
No, there's a quote he had. I don't know if you have that written down, where he's asked about like his Batman. He's like, you know, or his Superman. Like Superman can do anything, or Batman. You know, he's been seen before in movie stuff, but my Batman could like go to prison and get raped. Like not everyone can say that. I'm just like, you know what? You're right, Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
fantasy world.
Okay.
You don't think these people kill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, we did it. We got the Snyder Cut. We watched it. Some of us watched it more than once. We've analyzed it.
That's success, Mike. I would say to any of the people harassing, to the comments that Ann Sarnoff, president of media over there at Warner, who's in charge of sort of greenlighting these things, she said they're not continuing. Obviously, a lot of the backlash is, shut up, bitch. Let's go ahead and stop that.
Stop.
You know, let's put that toxic behavior away, please.
Well, I think there's probably a big overlap between the toxic Snyder Cut fans and the toxic Star Wars fans. I think they fall into the same group of
similar circle.
Online people.
I say Trump supporters too, but we won't go that far.
Yeah, probably a lot of them. Yeah.
You think I'm not brave enough to say that those guys are probably Trump supporters on my podcast?
I'll fucking do it. I'll fucking do it right now.
Yeah.
Do it. You live in a fucking fantasy world.
That's right.
When she was in my arms and I promised her I would fucking kill you, which I fucking will. I mean, it's just, like we said, it's a one of a kind. High recommend. Normies, check it out. You know, you want to be part of the pop culture conversation, and this is going to be how you do it.
Yeah, this is one of the big ones. And now that we've kind of made it through the Snyderverse, I can feel the color coming back into my world.
Ooh,
we're back to normal now. Wow, what a journey we've had, guys. I just want to thank all the listeners for stopping by the old Snyderverse. It's been fun.
That's right.
That's right.
We're going to be staying in the WB rainbow for a while. You know, we're going to be covering Kong and Godzilla coming up. You know, they got some other stuff too. Normies, as always, you can check us out at normies_like_us to recommend stuff we should talk about. Follow us on social media, rate, review, subscribe. That helps us out a lot. Check out our new video thing. We're doing that too. We want to give you that content as well.
That's right. We're over on the YouTubes now. We got it same place you've been listening. You know where to find us on that dial. We're going to be covering a lot of cool stuff in the future. Kong, Falcon, all of it coming up. So be sure to stay tuned.
As of course, we've been your hosts. Colin L. No.
Aquamike. Hell yeah.
Batjo.
And this is Jake Snyder coming at you 100%. Let's go.
He's doing reps. He's getting stronger. Oh my God. All right. Bye, Normies.
Bye.
My man. Obviously, that's your catchphrase.
That's my catchphrase.
Coming at you.
Yeah! I want to be like Zack Snyder. Don't tell him that.